Theodore McCarrick is dead. Theodore McCarrick. We talked about this on Friday with the breaking news. Today, I want to go through the timeline of abuse allegations against the now deceased former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. It's a very extensive timeline. What we knew and when we knew it and who knew it. That's what I want to talk about. Now, listen, I'm going to link to this in the description of this video on your way down. Make sure to smash that thumbs up. But I'm not going to bore you to death. I just want to point out some things that I found as I read through this entire timeline of events and that I thought were very interesting. What we knew, who knew it, and when did they know it? I think it's incredible. I really do. A lot of this is just based off of the McCarrick report. So that's what we're going to go to in this video because I'm getting ready because tomorrow I have James Grine on the show who, according to this timeline, his case didn't even get reported until 2017. McCarrick was long since retired by that point. And that was the breaking point. And so he's on the team tomorrow on the show, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mike McCormick is on the show tomorrow morning as well. So we're going to be talking about the McCarrick story from their perspective, looking back on his legacy, so to speak. We prayed for his soul, of course, on Friday. Did he make a public repentance? That's what we talked about Friday. But today I want to get into this time. That's what I'm going to do. By the way, if you're new here, Joe McLean, I host a radio program called The Catholic Take. I look at the world through a Catholic lens. Inside the church, outside the church, from the Vatican to the White House, all points in between. My Catholic Take, 7 a.m. Live, Monday through Friday, right here and all across the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, iCatholic Radio, and all of our affiliates across the country. Thanks for being a part of the team. Subscribe if you like. Comment if you like. Let me know what you think. One thing I wanted to do was get the commentary. Let me just do this. Let me just do this real quick. Before I jump into that list, I just want to see who's on the team. Let me know where you're from. Good afternoon. Maggie's Ace, good afternoon to you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Okay, now I can jump into this. A timeline of events. Catholic news agencies reporting this. Now, I'm just going to highlight, like I said, I'm going to highlight some things that I thought were interesting to say the least. One thing I didn't like right out of the gate was I share a birthday with Theodore McCarrick. I didn't know that until I really went through this list with some finite detail. I'm like, my brain hurts now thinking about it. So July 7th, he was born. Okay, that's not good. Now, he was ordained by Cardinal Francis Spellman, right? Cardinal Francis Spellman. Paul VI gives him the honorary title of Monsignor. 58 to 65. What is that, 6 or 7 years? He's made a Monsignor in under a decade. I want you to just sort of let that sink in. He's made a Monsignor in less than 10 years of becoming a priest. That's bizarre. Is that regular? Does it happen a lot? I don't know. I didn't fact check that, but it just seems like it's super short. Like it should be longer, no? I think so, anyway. November 1981, Pope John Paul II appoints McCarrick as Bishop of Metuchen, New Jersey, after receiving glowing reviews of him. And golly gee whiz, glowing reviews. So he is on a upward trajectory here, rising super fast. He's ordained a priest, and all of a sudden, boom, he turns right around. He is a Monsignor. And then it takes him a little while longer, of course, and then he becomes auxiliary bishop in 1977. So just over a decade after he's a Monsignor, he becomes a bishop. And then just a few short years after that, he is the actual bishop in Metuchen. Mid-1980s. This is where we begin. Right here, mid-1980s. A New York Catholic mother, identified as Mother 1, sends out an anonymous letter to every cardinal in the United States, as well as to the papal nuncio, detailing concerns that McCarrick is attracted to males, to boys in particular. Mother 1's family has grown close to McCarrick during this time, and she grew suspicious as she observed Cardinal McCarrick doing unsavory things to her son, let's just say. I don't want to get any more details because of the host that we are on, to this platform that we are on, probably won't like me reading these verbatim, but you can see it on screen there, and you can link to it as well. But here's the real kicker. No copies of Mother 1's letter are found for the McCarrick report. We know it exists, but it's not in the archive. Why is that? Mid-1980s. This is early on. Very early on in his meteoric rise to the top. There's no record of Mother 1's letter. Very interesting. 1986. JP2 appoints McCarrick, nearly 56 years old, as Archbishop of Newark, New Jersey. After receiving strong recommendations from bishops in the United States, none mentioned concerns regarding inappropriate behavior. I guess they are unaware of Mother 1. I don't know. 89 to 96, the priests, 3 priests identify as priests 1, 3, and 4, report to Bishop Edward Hughes. I got some images here of certain players that are being mentioned here that I decided to bring up. So these priests are now reporting to who took over the Diocese of Metuchen. So McCarrick was at the diocese. He's moved on. He's at Newark now. He's an archbishop. And then Edward Thomas Hughes takes over Metuchen, New Jersey. And then these 3 priests are now, their stories are coming up, and they've got issues, and they've reported those issues and the inappropriate behavior of McCarrick while he was still there. Some of these priests have their own problems. And when they were being interviewed because of their own crimes, they're like, well, this was the culture. This was the nature. This happened to me by good old Teddy. So these reports are actually happening now. So early to mid 80s, you've got Mother 1. And then by the late 80s, you've got these priests that are also being investigated and reporting what they know, what they saw and experienced firsthand. These priests later said that Hughes listened to them, but either sent them on for therapy or urged them to forgive McCarrick. There is no evidence that Hughes told anyone else of these priests' report of McCarrick's misconduct. And that's kind of the reason why I wanted to go over this today with you in preparation for my conversation again with James Grind tomorrow morning on the radio show, is because this is important to know. It's guys like Edward Thomas Hughes who helped McCarrick rise to the top by not passing on the information that they knew. January 1990, Monsignor Dominic Bottino of Camden, New Jersey, along with his bishop, James Thomas McHugh. So Bottino and McHugh both made reports about behaviors that they saw McCarrick doing firsthand that were inappropriate, groping and things of that nature. They called him different. They said Bottino's voiced concerns and says McCarrick was just different. Bottino tells his spiritual director at the time of the incident, but no one else, since his bishop dismissed the incident. McHugh waves it off, sees him groping another male, and waves it off. Bottino calls him different and reports it to his spiritual director. Good times. 92 to 93, 6 anonymous letters and 1 pseudonymous, easy for you to say, letter alleging misconduct by McCarrick and mailed to various Catholic prelates, including U.S. Apostolic Nuncio Agostino Machiavellian. Cardinal John O'Connor as well, and leaders of the U.S. Bishops' Conference. The letters accuse McCarrick of crimes. You can see it there on the screen for yourself. And sharing beds when he had no business to do so, to include some of his very own, air quotes here, nephews. It's not good. And it seems to me they knew a lot. This is now the mid-90s. This man was a cardinal of the church until what year again? When did he get defrocked? Remind me one more time. Was that 1993? No, sorry. It was still decades to come, apparently. The accusations against McCarrick at this time are dismissed on the basis of McCarrick's good reputation and due to the anonymity, why can I never say these words, of the letter and the lack of specific accusations. Specific accusations, kind of like what Bottino said. Was that not specific enough? Or the Bishop McHugh, witnessing firsthand, that's not good enough. Mother One's, she leveled some accusations. Apparently that wasn't good enough, not specific enough. And even though several cardinals and bishops and the USCCB were all alerted by these reports, let alone priest 1, priest 3, priest 4, to Bishop Edward Hughes, none of it apparently was good enough. Not good enough, apparently. Now we've got back in, 93 to 95. Newark is elevated as a potential site for a papal visit. We got a papal visit coming. That's always good, right? Good old papal visit. Well, Mother Mary Quinton Sheridan, Superior General of the Religious Sisters of Mercy of Alma, Michigan. I did have a picture of her, but apparently I didn't save it or something. So mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Well, she actually reported to the papal nuncio, Machiavellian, that they had heard rumors, they heard reports from seminarians that were abused in this situation. But after consulting with Cardinal James Hickey of Washington, D.C., about the allegations, Machiavellian dismisses them as a possible slander or exaggeration. Slander or exaggeration. So let me get this straight. Priest 1, 3, and 4, Mother 1, seminarians are coming out by this point. We're still in the 1990s here. And you've got Monsignor Dominic Bottino from Camden, Bishop James McHugh, who witnessed him firsthand doing inappropriate things. But the good Cardinal Hickey from Washington, D.C., not good enough. It's probably just exaggeration and slander. Machiavellian's like, okay, okay, whatever you say, buddy. Let's just move on, I suppose. 1995, JP2 visits. 1996 to 97, Priest 1 told psychiatrist Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons and priest psychologist Monsignor James Cassidy about the assault that he witnessed and experienced at the hands of McCarrick. Okay. Cassidy reports the matter to John Cardinal O'Connor, Archbishop of New York City, who told Hughes. And in 2000, in an account, Machiavellian, Hughes stated that he was not sure whether to believe the report, as Priest 1 has the history of blaming others for his own problems. You know what we do have a record of? We have documented statistics. Those that are abused tend to go on to abuse others. So maybe, just maybe, if the guy who's abusing others and says he himself was abused, perhaps that's something we ought to pay attention to. I think so. You know who kind of put us on a process like that? Oh yeah, it was McCarrick when he was the president of the USCCB with Gregory Worrell next to him, and they all gave us Virtus certification. We all had to go and take these courses and be certified, have our backgrounds checked just so that we can volunteer at our parishes, teach CCD or whatever. Yeah, it was Cardinal McCarrick that gave us that. Good times, huh? And in that class, they actually tell you those that are abused tend to go on to be abusers themselves. Golly gee whiz, if only we paid attention. 1996, 97. So this priest is trying to make this known. Priest number one, but they don't believe him. They don't want to believe him, so they move on. March 97. The congregation unsuccessfully attempts to contact priest one. There is no evidence of further action taken. No evidence of further action taken. We're still in the 90s here. Plenty of evidence, plenty of allegations, plenty of people raising the alarm, plenty of people saying this is wrong, there's bad things happening here, we need to do something about it, and there is no evidence of further action taken by the Congregation of the Bishops. July 1999, O'Connor advises the Apostolic Nuncio Gabriel Montolavo. I got his picture too. Archbishop, the Apostolic Nuncio Montolavo. O'Connor advises Apostolic Nuncio Montolavo that McCarrick should not be elevated to New York due to moral issues. So O'Connor tells the papal nuncio that McCarrick should not be elevated because he's got moral issues. July of 1999. Montolavo asks O'Connor to put it in writing. Montolavo sends this to Cardinal Lucas Moria, the prefect for the Congregation for Bishops, regarding this post. Based on recommendations from the U.S. bishops and cardinals, Montolavo recommends McCarrick for the position and notes that he would be a worthy member of the College of Cardinals. So despite the fact that Montolavo was told by O'Connor about serious concerns and allegations, Montolavo tells Maria, come on, this guy, not only is he good for the job, but we should give him the red hat too. He adds that McCarrick has been accused of misplaced affection, but there is no supporting evidence. So Montolavo says, McCarrick he has an affection. It's just misplaced. It's misunderstood. He's really the victim here, apparently. October of 99, O'Connor states that it was common knowledge among clergy in the Archdiocese of Newark that McCarrick frequently shared these beds with his guests, including priests and seminarians. He also notes that he had been a priest very close to McCarrick who accompanied him on at least one international trip, who had since left the priesthood. Furthermore, he recalls that a psychologist and psychiatrist had confirmed the veracity of the claims of at least one priest who said he was victimized by McCarrick. The Archbishop Giovanni Battista Re. This guy right here, Dean of the College of Cardinals. Still alive, very old, by the way. The Archbishop Giovanni Battista Re, then substitute of the Secretary of State, informs JP2 of the letter because Montolavo forwards the letter to the Congregation of Bishops and to the Secretary of State. At the request of the Pope, Re consults Cachiavellian, the papal nuncio, who had been nuncio in the United States when most of the allegations against McCarrick had occurred. So now we got convos going between some key players at the Vatican. So it's not as though they didn't know. They knew. JP2 knew. Cachiavellian, the papal nuncio, casts serious doubt on all 6 of O'Connor's concerns, saying that the incidents were just a few rumors. He adds that McCarrick had not been given a chance to defend himself. Still, he recommends that McCarrick go to Washington, D.C. instead. Cachiavellian doesn't want him now to be the bishop in New York City. Instead, Washington, D.C. is a much better fit, given that O'Connor doesn't like him. So let's send him to D.C., the premier archdiocese, the premier diocese in the United States. Do you think this is right? Do you think it's crazy? I think it's crazy. You let me know what you think in the comment box. I'll read some of your comments here in a moment. James from South Texas. Thanks for being on the team this afternoon. November the 22nd, 1999. Ray, Cardinal Bautista Ray, requests of the Pope, at the request of the Pope, writes Montalvo, asking him to look into the claims against McCarrick at his convenience for the sake of the truth. When you get time, you know what I mean? In between other tasks, whenever you feel like it, how about you look into it a little bit? Okay, just a little bit. February 8th, 2000, Cardinal Moria Neves of the Congregation of Bishops tells Montalvo that based on the accusations against McCarrick, as well as his age, almost 70 by this point, he should not be transferred to a different diocese. You think? I don't know, Your Eminence. Golly gee whiz. With priest 1, 3, and 4, with mother 1, with all of the accusations against that seminarians were bringing up already by this point, I think there was more than enough information that even the Pope knew about, but we just turned a blind eye, apparently. May 2000, McHugh responds to Montalvo. He confirms knowledge of McCarrick sharing the bed with all of his guests. This bishop acknowledges this. When asked by them for follow-up, he gives them the goods. Improper behavior. Familiarity. It was imprudent, It was imprudent. So that's what he tells Montalvo. May 16, 2000, Breen responds to Montalvo saying he heard rumors of illicit activity, but that he had no way to prove them. May 22nd, 2000, Hughes. Where's my Hughes? McHugh, I see. Oh, there we go. Hughes. Thank you. Hughes responds to Montalvo. He says he does not have factual information regarding McCarrick's moral weakness. He notes that 2 priests who came forward with accusations, priest 6 and priest 1, did so in the course of admitting their own moral failures and may have been attempting to justify their actions. He recommends against McCarrick's promotion, but also against disciplinary actions. We shouldn't promote him, but let water under the bridge. Let bygones be bygones. You know what I'm saying? July 2000, Ray and Pope John Paul II conclude that it would be unwise to promote McCarrick to Washington, D.C. So what happens? Well, the wild card gets played. By this time, by the way, JP2 is only 5 years from his own deathbed. He's not doing well. He's already, his health is declining. His ability to govern and control the curia is not all that great, even by July of 2000. Cardinal Dziewicz, then, Bishop Dziewicz, Archbishop Dziewicz, he wouldn't be made a cardinal until under B16, but they say he was the gatekeeper of JP2 by this point. So what does McCarrick do? McCarrick writes to Bishop Stanislaus Dziewicz, August the 6th, 2000, Pope JP2 secretary, refuting the accusations against him. He says he was tipped off by a curia friend about O'Connor's letter, which had deeply attacked him and left him bewildered. Your Excellency, quote, sure, I've made some mistakes and may have sometimes lacked in prudence, but 70 years of my life, I've never had any relations with any person, male or female, young or old, cleric or lay, nor have I abused another person or treated them with disrespect, close quote, writes McCarrick. Going on to say, if I understand the accusations that Cardinal O'Connor may have made, they are not true. I don't care what O'Connor says. They're just not true. McCarrick adds that he would accept whatever decision the Holy Father makes. Okay. Dziewicz delivers McCarrick's letter to Pope John Paul II, who gives the letter to Cardinal Bautista Ray, who later says JP2 had become convinced of McCarrick's innocence after the letter. So all McCarrick had to do was write a letter to Dziewicz, no matter what Mother 1 said, Priest 1 6, 3, and 4 had to say, what the Mother Superior of her religious sisters had to say about the seminarians that they were teaching and their complaints, no matter what Bishop James McHugh had to say or Monsignor Dominic Bottino had to say about all of these accusations, all you had to do was write a letter to Cardinal Giwich. And it gets done. Not only is JP2 convinced at that point that McCarrick is now not guilty, he actually elevates him to Washington, D.C., and then, of course, makes him a cardinal. Machiavellian, in September the 25th, 2000, recommends McCarrick to the Congregation for Bishops for the Washington, D.C. position. McCarrick travels to Rome for a private audience with Giwich and Pope JP2. There's no record of what occurred in the meeting. But in October of that year, Cardinal Battista Ray recommends McCarrick as one of the two candidates for the post, and he's given the post by JP2. Good times. Good times. Montalvo receives in early 2001 an anonymous note warning of serious scandal if McCarrick is made a cardinal. But did that stop JP2? No, it didn't. They made him a cardinal as well. In the early 2000s, McCarrick, despite refusing a salary as Archbishop, continues large donations and financial gifts to the Holy Father, something that we've talked about with James Grind in the past. He's going to be on tomorrow. Again, James Grind tomorrow on my radio show. Mike McCormick tomorrow on my radio show. Starts 7 a.m. New York City time tomorrow morning, right here, all across the station, across Catholic Media Network, iCatholic Radio, the YouTube channel, everywhere. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. But even though McCarrick wasn't taking a salary as the Archbishop in New York City, he liked to travel a lot with envelopes full of cash, giving out gifts all the time. Where did he get the money? Where did that come from? I'm looking for my copy of the St. Gallen Mafia again. Somewhere right over here on my bookshelf. We interviewed Julie Maloney a couple times on that book. James Grind was on some of those trips with McCarrick as he passed out large envelopes full of money. Very, very interesting. Mike McCormick has been on my show a couple of weeks back talking about how McCarrick was one of the most frequent guests of Joe Biden under the Obama-Biden administration. Went on lots of trips for USAID. That's interesting, don't you think? I do. So he's into it. You know what I mean? He's into the whole travel, making friends deal. Montalvo, it says in March of 2002, receives another letter from a layman who had spiritually directed a transitional deacon at Seton Hall who claimed that McCormick had been inappropriate with him at the Jersey Beach House. Montalvo contacts Newark Archbishop John Myers, who later responds that he did not recognize the deacon's name. And he adds that he received other anonymous accusations against McCarrick, but they were untraceable rumors and not concrete incidents. So no further actions needed. Nothing to see here. Move along. April 2002, McCarrick admits to Susan Gibbs, communications director of the Archdiocese of Washington, that he had, in fact, shared the bed, even though he denied those rumors before. So it turns out, according to McCarrick, he did do these things. And everybody knew it. Everybody knew it, as Bishop Lopes of the Anglican Ordinariate made very clear in 2018 in a homily that he gave that he did not want to be released publicly, but somebody recorded it, made it public. Bishop Lopes made it clear that we all knew, he said. We all knew. They all knew. They all knew. November the 15th, 2004, Bishop Donald Wuerl. Who remembers that guy? Who remembers that guy? Bishop Donald Wuerl, Cardinal Wuerl of the Diocese. Well, then he was just at the Diocese of Pittsburgh. He'll go on to become the Cardinal Archbishop of Washington, D.C. But anyway, he says the Diocese of Pittsburgh sends Montalvo a signed statement from priest number 2. So yet more reports of his good friend McCarrick coming to Montalvo's desk. Priest number 2, the former seminarian and priest of the Diocese of Metuchen. In it, the priest recalls problematic and extremely inappropriate behavior, including back rubs and other behaviors that are no good. He does not overtly accuse him in the statement, but there is no record that Montalvo forwarded the letter to the Vatican. Why not? You had previous reports sent to your desk that you had to send to the Home Office. Why wouldn't this one also go? Perhaps it's sitting right next to Mother One's report that also didn't make it to the file. I don't know. February 24th, 2005. Myers writes the nuncio Montalvo, warning him that McCarrick's behavior, according to priest number 2's lawyer, may constitute abuse. There's no record that Montalvo contacts the Vatican about this at all. June 2005, McCarrick sends $10,000 to the diocese around this time, apparently as a part of the settlement. There's no indication that the nuncio or the Vatican know of this settlement. So there was a settlement with priest number 2 of the Diocese of Metuchen for $80,000. You didn't do anything wrong, I was told. Montalvo got the reports, didn't pass it to the Home Office because it's just rumors. It's just, misplaced affection. That's all it is. Then why are we paying out $80,000 to priest number 2 if it's not true? Why are we settling? Why is McCarrick having to contribute and pony up $10,000 to the cause if, in fact, he's done nothing wrong? And that we knew in June of 2005. Well before Vigano came out publicly in 2018 and told us what he knew and did. In late June of 2005, in a dispute about priest 1's fitness for ministry, summaries of the instances of abuse from McCarrick suffered by priest 1 are sent to the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. So more information passed to the Home Office. Summer of 2005, Cardinal Ray, after consulting Pope Benedict XVI, extends McCarrick's position in Washington, D.C. 2 more years. He's retired with a rap sheet of accusations and reports, and they let him stay for 2 more years. How is that explained exactly? I mean, I'm a knuckle dragger. I'm just some talking head on radio and YouTube. Like, I don't know anything. I'm not a smart man, as the great philosopher Forrest Gump once said. So I don't understand. Explain it to me like I'm 2. How do you get a guy who's been reported now for decades to have had inappropriate behavior get to keep his job for 2 more years, even after he's legally retired? It's because somebody knew and turned the other cheek, apparently. I don't know. November the 5th, 2005, Benedict XVI reverses the decision to extend McCarrick's term in Washington based on credible accusations against him, likely obtained by Archbishop William Leveda, the new prefect for the Congregation of the Faith. Okay, so Leveda, His Eminence, who was in charge of doctrine, I want you to hold that thought in your mind. He was in charge of doctrine. Based on these credible reports, Benedict XVI decides to finally take the man out of office. Good first step? I don't know. Maybe. November 7, 2005. Ray sends Nuncio Montalva a copy of McCarrick's August 6, 2000 letter pleading innocence to Ziewicz. Ray adds a note stating that new information has surfaced, making the accusations seem more credible. And he is going to ask McCarrick to withdraw from Washington. You're going to ask McCarrick to withdraw from Washington? How about send the sheriff's office to arrest him? Help him pack? I don't know. Perhaps that was the right move. Doesn't seem so when you're dealing with the hierarchy anymore. December the 5th, 2005. Ray meets with McCarrick in Rome. McCarrick admits to sharing the beds. He had already admitted that. He's on the record. But, nothing happened between consensual adults. You know what I'm saying? He accepts moving his resignation up to Easter. I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. You let me know if you get it. Anyway, but he asks that it be done in the way that would not be seen as punishment. Okay, so tell that to priest 1, 3, 6, 4, mother 1 who sent in her accusations about what happened to her son. How about those seminarians that made their voices heard? How about all of these credible reports that are now numerous and numerous? So McCarrick gets to go quietly into the night without looking like he's been punished out in the public, but his victims go on to victimize other people because they themselves were victimized. Shortly thereafter, Bishop Paul Butowski, that's a name for you. Paul Butowski. I thought I had his image somewhere as well. Yeah, I do. Right there. Paul Butowski. Paul Butowski of the Diocese of Metuchen forwards to Nuncio Montalvo specific allegations previously made by priest 1, priest 2, and priest 2 recalled specific instances of sharing a bed with McCarrick during which there was inappropriate, although not clearly sexual physical contact. Inappropriate, to say the least. On a subsequent trip, McCarrick shared the bed with priest 1 and then did other inappropriate things, and Ray was given all of this information. I'm fast forwarding here. March 2006. McCarrick asks Monsignor Robert Sheeran, president of the Seton Hall University, about residing part-time in an on-campus residence for priests next to all those seminarians at the seminary. Archbishop Myers tells Sheeran he strongly opposes the move. You'd think, if maybe you opposed that, could it be that it's because McCarrick was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he had no business not only not being anywhere near these people, but also in jail, serving out a sentence commensurate with his crimes? No, you're right. He should be able to live in retirement peaceful. Yeah, silly me. I'm sorry. What was I thinking? Anyway, he continues to decline a pension. To June 2006, in a report, priest 1 recalls that he witnessed McCarrick doing very inappropriate things, very graphic and inappropriate things. Special occasions he felt forced to share with McCarrick in the bed. Again, behaviors that are not appropriate. October the 3rd, 2006, Archbishop Myers faxes the incident report. Faxed it. Were we still faxing in 06? Interesting. I almost want to go down a rabbit hole. I received a fax from the Vatican in 2005. It was November. It was late November, maybe early December of 2005. In the middle of the night, I got a fax, and the phone was ringing, and I was rushing in the dark to get my fax plugged in. By the time I got it all ready to go, the phone line was dead, and I never actually got the fax. It was so that I could get tickets to a mass with Benedict XVI when I was in Rome the next couple of days. And I had to go knock on the big bronze doors with the Swiss guard there guarding, saying, hey, I'm supposed to have tickets. I had to explain. It was very awkward. They just gave me a look like I was a crazy Yankee from the United States. Anyway, October 17, 2006, Ray, the prefect of the congregation, responds to U.S. Nuncio Sambi. Now we have now Montalvo's gone. Now we got Sambi. Now Sambi's the apostolic nuncio. And he responds to Sambi and, fearing medical scandal, advises that McCarrick move out of his seminary residence, you think, and live a life of quiet prayer in prison. Oh, wait, sorry. No, that's not what it says. It says so as to not cause himself to be spoken of. Well, we wouldn't want that. Ray adds that he discussed McCarrick's situation with Whirl in Rome, but that the nuncio should be the one to ask McCarrick to move on and live a quiet life of prayer. What do you say, Sambi? Sambi? Go ask him. Me? Is that my job? Why don't you ask him? I don't want to ask him. You ask him. Okay. Hey, McCarrick, do you mind? Is it okay? You think you can move out? Live somewhere quiet? Live out the rest of your days in quiet? November 2006, priest one's testimony about the incidents regarding McCarrick were video recorded. No records indicate that the recording was sent to the Vatican. The parties agree to a settlement for priest one's claims. So again, we are paying out to priest one because of his claims, but we're told that McCarrick, who denied all of the allegations, that he's innocent, but we're paying out anyway. Maybe you're an attorney and you're going to explain to me, Joe, sometimes it's just the fastest way to deal with these issues, even though you're innocent, is just to pay it out and be done with it. Is that right? Would you be willing to live with that charge for the rest of your life? Your name in connection with paying out for these types of inappropriate abuses of other human beings? I wouldn't. Let's go to court. I'm innocent. I'll fight for my innocence. I'm not going to pay out, cut a check. Are you out of your mind? And why again didn't Papal Nuncio Sambi send the record of the video recording of priest one's testimony to the Vatican for the record? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But now we get to Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, who I interviewed in 2016 as he was packing his bags at the nunciature in Washington, D.C. I called over there to book an interview with him. And you can actually listen to that interview. It's on my YouTube channel. You just search for Vigano, and I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, I talked to the guy. It was very interesting. Very interesting. They gave me some cryptic language as I was booking it. You know, His Excellency, you know, he is packing his bags. I'm like, really? Okay. Sure. I just want to talk to him. Okay. It was funny. It's kind of funny. They were trying to like send me wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I was like right over my head, paying zero attention in those days. I was still 2 years out from being red pilled. So it was very interesting. No records. Let that sink in. In it, so, okay, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, December the 6th, 2006. At the time, the delegate for pontifical representations with the Secretary of State writes a memorandum. In it, he notes priest one's accusations amount to the crimes of entrapment, solicitation of seminarians and priests to commit wicked acts repeatedly and simultaneously with more than one person, making a mockery of the young seminarian who tried to resist the archbishop's seduction in the presence of two other priests, absolution of the accomplice to these wicked acts, and sacrilegious celebration of the Eucharist with the same priest after committing such acts. Vigano reports this to the Vatican in 2006. The memorandum is read by Archbishop Leonardo Sandri and Secretary of State Bertone. December the 7th, Sambi meets with McCarrick to discuss his move out of the Redemptorist Mater Seminary at the request of the that he live a quiet life of prayer. An emotional McCarrick tells Sambi that because priest one was 25 at the time of the allegations, what had happened was not a crime, and that his continued pursuit of the allegations seemed to be a grab for money. So hold on, McCarrick. If I'm Sambi, I'm asking the question now. Wait, hold on, time out. You just said that because priest one was 25 when you two were at the beach house, he's an adult, and therefore it's not a crime. So something did happen then. So you're admitting something actually happened. But in your mind, it's not a big deal because you're adults. Am I to believe that? Who said that again? Wait. Oh, yeah, Supich. You remember when Supich made that claim, stood up at the USCCB meeting under Cardinal DiNardo back in 2018 and said the same thing? Hey, let's not talk about consensual. Yeah, let's just forget that. Nothing to see here. Move along. January 2007, Sambi reports his meeting with McCarrick to Ray and adds that he looked into whether the leaders of a Redemptorist Mater Seminary consider McCarrick an active threat. Seminary leaders say McCarrick was touchy, but they did not consider him to be a threat. He was touchy. Personal space? January 15, 2007, Bertone and Pope Benedict XVI discussed problems relating to McCarrick in private and underscored audience, an unrecorded, audience. Bertone later recalls that Benedict XVI wanted McCarrick's activities contained, but did not think it necessary to pursue a CDF investigation. Exactly why not? How many reports do you need? They're paying out tens of thousands of dollars. By 2007, they've been paying out to priest number one for sure. All these other reports, and Benedict, you don't think there needs to be an investigation by the CDF? Exactly why? Exactly why? I don't know. August 2007, priest one reaches a $100,000 agreement. It was 80, now it's 100,000 with the Archdiocese of Newark and the Diocese of Metuchen. The settlement does not name McCarrick or include an admission of wrongdoing. There is no record that the Vatican was informed that a settlement was reached. Nobody's telling the Vatican. Are you getting the pattern here? Sambi, did you know? Maybe we can write a song about that. Sambi, did you know that your McCarrick would one day get away with it? Sambi, did you know? And why didn't you tell your boss? That's the question. Sambi seeks McCarrick's input on numerous matters. What? Why? If you're getting all these reports, you're paying out thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. Why do you care what the man has to think about anything other than repentance, prayer, fasting, and making reparation? Sambi seeks McCarrick's input on numerous matters, including politics, international affairs, and U.S. bishop appointments. I suppose it's kind of like that documentary film, Silence of the Lambs. You remember that? When the FBI agent goes to get the advice of the criminal. How'd that work out again? I forget. McCarrick maintains residence at the Redemptorist Martyr Seminary. Okay. Sambi wanted him to move out, but, hey, I'm not good with that, Sambi, okay? Okay. You sure? Whatever you say, Mr. McCarrick. April 2008, Benedict XVI travels to the U.S. McCarrick concelebrates Mass with B16 at St. Patrick's Cathedral and attends dinner with the Pope in New York. How did that happen exactly? Maybe Benedict XVI was made not aware because they're not telling him a lot of things, obviously. So maybe he didn't know. I don't know. Maybe he didn't know, but maybe he sees him and goes, oh, yeah, come over here. Come on, MC. Yeah, come over here. MC. You see that guy right there? Drag him out. Yeah, have security come drag him away. You're the Pope. Do whatever you want. Vicar of Christ on earth. Spring 2008, shortly after the Pope's trip, psychotherapist and former Benedictine monk Richard Sipe publishes an online open letter to Pope Benedict XVI titled Statement for Benedict XVI about the pattern of sexual abuse crisis in the United States. By the way, I'd highly recommend Father Jean Thomas Gomulka's article, McElroy, Sipe, and McCarrick's Clones. And I'll try to get a link. I'll put a link to this. I got to still add it to the description below. So I'll do that as soon as I'm done. I'll put a link to this. I've had Father Gomulka on a number of times. He's been a whistleblower for a number of years. He's canceled. He's a canceled priest because of his blowing the whistle on predators and people covering it up. 2008, Archbishop Vigano writes a second internal memorandum. He includes an urgent appeal to Benedict XVI to discipline McCarrick. He says dealing with the McCarrick case before the legal authorities and before a scandal erupts could be healthy for the church, and he recommends a CDF investigation. But no action is taken. None. 2008, mid-2008, McCarrick travels to Rome and appears at a public event with Benedict XVI again. Ray, good old Batista Ray, is displeased to see McCarrick in Rome and confronts him, praise be to God, about disobeying instructions to live a more private life. McCarrick doesn't take it well. Who cares? And by the way, since he's a cardinal, prince of the church, and he's in Rome, Vatican City State, why not arrest him and put him in jail at the Vatican City State? It's an option. Could have happened, but no. May 27, 2008, Sambi reports to the Congregation for Bishops that he and Whirl, your friend Whirl again, recommended that McCarrick cease public appearances in the United States, but that he should be allowed to keep his international travels. What? Why? Can somebody please explain this? Break it down like I'm two. You don't like the guy. You think he's shady tree. Some of these accusations must be true because you're paying out $100,000+ in cash. That, by the way, was all donated by lay Catholics. You don't want to promote him. You want him to be like, lead a quiet life. But you know what? Let the guy continue to travel. Of course. That makes sense. As they believe, it would cause McCarrick psychological collapse to live a life of full retirement. The poor fella. Oh, my bleeding little heart. I feel for the guy. You know, like he would have psychological collapse if he couldn't travel the world, drink the finest wine, hang out with the coolest of people, and give them envelopes full of cash, apparently, which he was still doing in his retirement, by the way. August 2008, McCarrick writes to Sambi about the restrictions against him. He says that he was bewildered by Ray's letter because he thought he had been following Vatican instructions by not actively seeking invitations to travel, but rather by accepting them only from the bishops. September 2008, Ray responds to Nunzio Sambi, saying McCarrick must consult with Whirl. Go talk to Whirl about moving to a parish and must decline public engagements both in the United States and abroad unless he has explicit permission from the Vatican to do otherwise. So Battista Ray is like, listen, Sambi, you got to get him to move. I don't want to. I tried. He didn't listen to me. You got to try again. Oh, wait, I got an idea. Let's get Whirl to do it. Great idea. Whirl, you tell him. October 2007, McCarrick writes his letter to Ray with blind copy to Bertone. So Bertone gets back into the mix. Remember this guy? No, that's not him. Where is he at? Where's my friend Bertone? Oh, there he is. Thank you. Bertone. Very Italian. McCarrick writes his letter to Ray, copying Bertone. He asks for leniency on the travel sanctions, particularly to be allowed to go to Rome and to pray and to attend public audiences with the Pope. He also asks to be allowed to travel with the help of Catholic relief services, projects in developing countries. CRS, which I've talked extensively about with Michael Hitchborn. You should check all that. I've got several videos. Look for CRS, look for Hitchborn. You'll find all of it on the channel. Tons of information there. Ray responds to McCarrick. He says McCarrick would be allowed to visit Rome for private privileges and to visit friends. He tells McCarrick to decline future invitations to engage in meetings for Muslim, Christian dialogue, and Catholic relief services. So in other words, don't do those things unless given explicit permission from the Congregation of Bishops. December 27th, 2008. Sambi relays McCarrick's message to Ray and says it would be dangerous to allow McCarrick to have permission to act as a liaison to the White House. Sambi says he told McCarrick that he should instead suggest a president of the USCCB or the Archbishop of Washington in his place. And why was this? What are they talking about? Well, Barack Obama had won the White House in 2008, and it turns out that McCarrick loves it and has new friends in the White House. Something we talked to Mike McCormick about a couple of weeks ago, that one of the most frequent visitors at the White House during the Obama-Biden administration was Theodore McCarrick. By the way, Mike McCormick is on the program tomorrow morning. Starts at 7 a.m. New York time. We have Mike McCormick and James Grind on the show tomorrow. Join us for those conversations. January 5th, 2009, McCarrick sends a confidential letter to Cardinal Francis George of Chicago, God rest his soul, tells him the Vatican sanctions against him. So there is documented evidence in 2009 that McCarrick admitted that he had sanctions against him by the Vatican. January 19th, 2009, he adds that that it has been very difficult to turn down invitations to public events, especially from the White House. Oh, poor fella. I've never been invited to the White House. I thought when the new press secretary said, hey, we're going to let podcasters and all kinds of other cool people, come to the White House. I thought she meant like cool, like people like me could get a chance. And who knows, maybe some other folks, maybe a Taylor Marshall could go. I don't know. But there could be some interesting opportunities for some Catholic talking heads like myself. But no, silly me, that's not what she meant. That's no. She meant like Jack Posobiec. She meant like, the typical people. She didn't mean anybody real or interesting. She just means the typical talking heads, the Dan Bongino types of the world. Nobody else. Just that clique. So anyway, I digress. But apparently, he is trapped, according to this, trapped into continuing to accept those CRS travel dates and projects. He still has to do it. He's trapped, poor fella. He just has to. Mid-2009, there was no further record of correspondence between McCarrick or Ray or any other member of the Congregation for Bishops. No investigation is launched into the investigations against McCarrick. No investigation is launched. Heretofore, the indications or sanctions imposed upon McCarrick are not explicit directives of the Holy Father and thus not considered orders under canon law. What a nuanced position is that? McCarrick is still allowed to continue active ministry, including publicly celebrating Mass and activities previously mentioned. Let me ask you a question. So in 2009, sanctions are documented, but they are nuanced to the point where, they're not like under canon law. You know what I'm saying? They're sanctions, but not sanctions. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to keep this thing really quiet here. Why is that? What are we trying to protect? I don't know. But he's still allowed to go to Mass. He's still allowed to say Mass. He's still allowed to take travel. He's still passing out cash-filled envelopes. Bishop Strickland, is he invited into dioceses to go say Mass at parishes and such? Is he still doing confirmations? Oh, no, you're right. He's kind of blackballed. How is that right? How is that just? One more time. Explain that to me. That's why I'm proud to be going with Bishop Strickland in May to Greece and Turkey. I cannot wait. Praise be to God. Bishop Strickland is an amazing bishop, a good man. But while McCarrick was enjoying the benefits of his station, even after so many allegations and all the evidence, it's people like Bishop Strickland that get the boot. July 16, 2009, Archbishop Vigano leaves his position as the Secretary of State. I had just interviewed him just before that. And is appointed, we're still not there yet. He's still not at the nuncio. State is appointed Secretary General of the Governorate of the Vatican City, where he would not have been involved in matters pertaining to McCarrick, according to the reports. Fall 2008 to 2011, McCarrick maintains his membership in a number of USCCB committees and attends a semi-annual meetings. He also remains on the board and the foundation of CRS and makes a number of trips for this work. Still traveling. There is no record. He was reprimanded for breaking the rules. He was told not to take any more travel dates, not to do any more work for the CRS, and he still does it, and no one punishes him. Sambi corresponds with him on a regular basis, particularly about foreign affairs, and thanks McCarrick for his work. He's not supposed to be traveling, but you thank him for doing it anyway. Wow, Sambi, moral courage you must have had. It's so inspiring. July 27, 2011, Sambi dies suddenly. God rest his soul. Pray for him. August 2011, priest number 3 files a civil complaint in the Superior Court of New Jersey against the Diocese of Metuchen, the Archdiocese of Newark, and Bishop Butowski. It does not name McCarrick, but describes 3 incidents involving him in explicit detail. The complaint is not forwarded to the nunciature. Have you seen the pattern? I'm seeing a pattern. October the 19th, 2011, Vigano is appointed by Pope Benedict XVI as Sambi's replacement, his successor as the U.S. nuncio, According to the report, Vigano receives no written instructions regarding McCarrick, though Cardinal Marc Ouellet, or Ouellet, however you wish to say it, who was appointed prefect in 2010, recalled telling Vigano that McCarrick's movements were restricted due to past conduct. In his 2018 testimony, Vigano said he repeated sanctions to McCarrick in a meeting with him. According to the report, there is no record of the meeting, and McCarrick denied that it took place. Why would you not record the meeting? Have someone in the room keeping notes. He also continues extensive international travels and makes numerous public appearances. McCarrick regularly communicates his activities and travels to Vigano, and according to the report, there is no record that Vigano recommended McCarrick to stop them. Why not? Why not? Why didn't you stop him? March 2012, priest number 3's council files Priest 3's council files a certification in the New Jersey case signed by Priest 3 under penalty of law, which detailed the 3 incidents involving McCarrick. There are no records of the nunciature being informed of the certification. Someone's not talking to somebody. June 2012, McCarrick writes to Vigano, letting him know of multiple upcoming international trips and meetings. McCarrick says that though he enjoyed the give and take of these meetings, I am most willing to go into a more retirement mode, you might say, if Your Excellency or my other superiors feel that this would be preferred. Signed, yours truly, Teddy. There's no record that Vigano asked McCarrick to enter into a more low-profile retirement mode. Why not? Joe, that's the way church politics works. I just don't understand that. I've had that conversation with Father Charles Murr on a number of occasions. He's also tried to explain it to me. I just don't get it. But I'm a knucklehead, so I suppose that's why. Because I'm not smart. If I were smart, maybe I would understand why we like to keep wolves in sheep's clothing, prowling about the wolves all the time. I don't know. August the 6th, 2012, Priest 3 writes a letter to Vigano. He says he was assaulted by McCarrick during his time at Metuchen, which he believed was the cause of his recent problems. Remember, like some of these guys, the abused go on to abuse. It was McCarrick that told us that in 2004. Well, that's what happened to, I think, Priest 3. And he's relaying this information. He says he left and he had been wrongfully accused of financial mismanagement and transferred from, well, I guess that's Priest 1 that went on to abuse. Priest 3 is saying he got canceled for no good reason. That's what he's saying. August 13, 2012, Vigano notes that McCarrick had not followed Ray's instructions to live a private life and traveled extensively and continued to accept public invitations. He also adds that he only recently changed residences and that his new residence still gave him access to young religious of the IVE. He says he awaited instructions. This is Vigano speaking. He awaited instructions on how to act and feared a public scandal regarding McCarrick was imminent. So I guess we're saying that Vigano was like, listen, I asked for instructions. Ouellet told me there was some restrictions still. Nothing formal was passed my way. I asked for follow-up. Nothing given. But you know it was wrong. You know the guy's a bad apple. It doesn't matter if the Home Office tells you or not tells you. Like, I think he finally realized that. That's probably why he red pilled. September 2012. Vigano then informs Whirl, just when we thought Whirl was out of the picture, he informs Whirl, who says he was unaware of the event and would cancel it. We will remember Carlo Maria Vigano, 2018, basically starting to outline everything he knew, who he talked to, and he says he spoke to Whirl about this event. McCarrick's on one of the headliners. Bro, why? You can't let this happen. He's not supposed to be doing this. Hello, quiet life. Remember that whole spiel? Whirl's like, oh, okay, I'll look into it, I guess. Sure. 2012, September 12, Ouellette responds to Vigano with instructions for McCarrick. He tells him to, 1, clarify, responding to Vigano now, to number 1, clarify priest 3's accusations. Number 2, reiterate to McCarrick that he should live a reserved life of prayer and only travel to the bathroom from his prison. No, sorry. That's not what it says. It just says he gets to live quietly and peacefully and travel with rare exception, apparently, when the Holy See says so. He tells Vigano to evaluate McCarrick's current residence to see whether it has presented a problem. According to the report, there is no record that Vigano ever contacted Priest 3. Why not? Who later recalled that he was disappointed to not hear a response from Vigano. Vigano instead telephoned Bishop Butowski, I guess that's how you say it, Butowski, who informed Vigano that Priest 3 was neither credible nor reliable. Well, I'm glad we looked into it. What's next? World peace? Anyway, it goes on. There is no record of Vigano informing leadership of the USCCB or CRS about the renewed restrictions against McCarrick or of an investigation into McCarrick's new residence. Early May 2013, McCarrick ordains an IVE seminarian in California without the proper authorization required by the Code of Canon Law. He gets zero permission to ordain a seminarian and to the priesthood. And so what does the Vatican do? They treat him like Lefebvre and they excommunicate him. Done. Justice. Oh, no, sorry. That's an alternate reality. Sorry, no. What it says, Whirl, you remember Whirl? Yeah, Whirl, recognizing the error, writes to Vigano to grant McCarrick the authorization, as he was also scheduled to ordain priest at the end of May for the Archdiocese of Washington. Vigano, Your Excellency, awkward to say the least, but our buddy McCarrick, yeah, sure, the guy that's not supposed to be traveling anywhere, stuck at his home, peacefully living out the rest of his days. Yeah, that one. Well, it turns out he's in California ordaining priests. Yeah, I know. Silly. Well, I'm sorry. What was that? Ordaining? Yeah. But listen, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. Okay. Because at the end of the month, he's gonna work for me here in DC or the ordaining other seminarians. Is it okay if you just approve the one in California, like after the fact? I don't know. Let's go talk to the Home Office. Let's go talk to Rome. See what they say. Awkward. Vigano submits the request to Rome and informs Whirl once permission is granted. That didn't take long, did it? That doesn't take very long, does it? No, they just rubber stamped that thing. No matter what McCarrick did, it's never seemed to matter. It just never seemed to matter, no matter who was involved. May 20th, 2013. Bishop Butowski writes to Vigano, informing him that a confidential settlement had been reached with priest number 3. Remember the priest 1 settlement? Now we got priest 3 of the Diocese of Metuchen. And Butowski, without any admission of liability. So they're paying out, but they don't want to admit guilt. Why are you paying out if you're innocent? Joe, it's just the easiest way to deal with it is to take donor dollars and give them to people who made false accusations. I don't see it, but I'm a knuckle dragger. I'm not a smart man, so it's above my pay grade. I don't understand why we're doing any of this. Butowski, I just don't understand how to say his name correctly. It's not his fault, it's mine. Anyway, Butowski encloses a letter sent to Priest 3 after the settlement was reached. Priest 3 had been placing flyers on windshields in the dioceses accusing Butowski of engaging in homosexual relations and accusing McCarrick of being a predator. Butowski outlines remedial measures for Priest 3, including supervision, therapy, and spiritual direction. Does that come with the check that you paid out just for the settlement? I'm Just asking. June 13th, 2013, Vigano writes to Ule, forwarding Butkowski's letters. According to this report, Vigano says this constituted Vigano's sole response to Ule's letter, September the 12th, 2012. There is no other correspondence with the Vatican officials about the accusations or restrictions against McCarrick or priesthood case. The report noted that Pope Francis was still not consulted in matters regarding McCarrick. It added that Becciu, I didn't grab a picture for Becciu, I should have, sorry. Becciu, who was serving as the substitute in the Secretariat of State since mid-2011, later recalled that he had mentioned restrictions in McCarrick's case to Pope Francis sometime in 2013 and once again in the next few years. So Pope Francis, like Benedict XVI, like JP2, was informed about the history and the restrictions of McCarrick. Pope Francis, it goes on, later recalled that he had never heard specific accusations and that he assumed that he had been found to be without grounds because of JP2's elevation of McCarrick. You remember that? We talked about that several minutes ago. All of these accusations were bubbling up in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they were not going to give him the job in New York City. They were going to make him Archbishop in New York City, and then they were like, we can't do that. All these accusations, it wouldn't be good. McCarrick reaches out to his friend, Dziwisz, and Dziwisz says, oh, no, it's good. It's fine. It's totally okay. JP2 is like, okay. Not only gives him the job in D.C. and then elevates him to cardinal because of the approval and the word of Stanislaus, Cardinal Dziwisz. Good times, huh? June 23rd, 2013, and October the 10th, 2013, Pope Francis meets with Vigano at Santa Marta. Vigano later said that during these meetings, he told Francis that there was a thick file of accusations against McCarrick at the Congregation for Bishops, that he committed crimes and was a serial predator. Boy, the summer of 2018, when Vigano told the whole world that, changed my career forever. It'll never be the same. Pope Francis said in a later interview that he did not recall Vigano speaking of McCarrick with any force of clarity. He said he likely would remember being told of any crimes or abuse committed by McCarrick since he was familiar to him. I'm like, what? McCarrick did what? Stop. He did any? No. Come now. It's not as though we have a record of all of these things. McCarrick's activities, 2013 to 2017. McCarrick keeps up his activities with CRS, the USCCB, as well as numerous public events, masses, ordinations, consecrations of bishops, as well as extensive international travel. The hits, they just keep on rolling. Between these years, he also wrote 17 known letters to Pope Francis, often discussing his overseas travels. He also made recommendations for bishop appointments to the United States. He was occasionally thanked for these letters by Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Becciu, and a few times by the Pope. So even though he did know, and players knew, Sambi knew, Vigano knew, Battista Re knew, Cardinal World knew, and a host of others, Bertone knew. They all knew that he was not supposed to be traveling. But he's traveling. In the course of his travels, McCarrick met with Pope Francis privately on June the 13th, February 2016, and February 2017. No, June 2013, February 2016, and February 2017. He also occasionally saw him while staying at the hotel in Rome at the Vatican. 2013, 2014. According to the report, these trips were funded by private lay U.S. Catholic donors. Don't you wonder who those folks are? I do. Pope Francis's advisor on China at the time was Parolin, and he was going to China. The United States sent him to China. Mike McCormick is going to be on the show tomorrow. We'll get into more of that with him, 7:14 a.m. New York City time. March 8th, 2016, McCarrick writes to Pope Francis thanking him for allowing him to continue his work and travels, but offers to go into retirement at any time. Just what you say the word, Your Holiness, and I will go off quietly into the sunset. He also writes to Parolin informing him of upcoming meetings with Muslim leaders, but also offering to go into retirement. Why is he offering to do that? Why do you feel the need to go into retirement all the time? You're already very much retired, but still very active for some odd reason. Parolin later recalled briefly mentioning gossip about McCarrick's past imprudent acts to Pope Francis around this time, but he said he did not present did not present it as grave matter. He had inappropriate, imprudent actions, but it wasn't grave matter. Tell that to the seminarians. Tell that to priests 1, 3, 6, 4. Tell that to Mother 1, whose record never made it into the Vatican's record. Tell that to all of his victims. April 12th, 2016, Vigano and his resignation accepted by Pope Francis. This is when I had just interviewed him. He resigned, he was packing, and then I interviewed him. Vigano's resignation is accepted by Pope Francis. Archbishop Christophe Pierre is appointed the new nuncio. Toward the end of his term, Vigano thanks McCarrick in a letter for your commendable ministry to the Church Universal and your reaching out most recently to China, to the Muslim world, efforts that will no doubt bear much fruit. Why? When you had people reporting to you so much, why? Why would you write a letter thanking him? Is that politics? Is that what we're looking at here? Is this just politics? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's something I just don't understand the nuance of it. I don't know. I don't get it. June 8th, 2017, the Archdiocese of New York receives a claim through its independent reconciliation and compensation program alleging that McCarrick unlawfully touched a minor. And this, my friends, is the date that changes everything. This, June 8th, 2017. This is the date that changes everything when it comes to Theodore McCarrick. He unlawfully touched a minor number 1, in the early 1970s, when minor number 1 was 16 or 17. This was the first allegation against McCarrick involving a named minor. The allegation is reported to local law enforcement. Minor number 1, if I'm not mistaken, is James Grine. And James Grine is on my show tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. New York time. I've interviewed him a few times in the past. He's back tomorrow to talk about the McCarrick case now that McCarrick is dead. Minor number 1 changed everything. Prior to this moment, you have all of these reports, allegations, crimes, payouts. It's just an ugly piece of business. Going back to the early 1980s, nothing happens for nearly 2.5 decades. Finally, we get traction. The allegation is reported to local law enforcement. Cardinal Dolan writes to Parolin for instructions on how to proceed with the allegations. Pope Francis, via Cardinal Secretary of State, tells Dolan to conduct the preliminary investigation called for in canon law and to have a review board of the Archdiocese examine the case. They do that. The preliminary investigation is conducted with the assistance of the lay investigators. The review board conducts interviews with the claimant and McCormick and unanimously finds the allegations to be credible. Dolan communicates it to Parolin. Dolan recommends to Parolin that given the gravity of the allegations, given the gravity of the allegations against McCarrick involving minor number 1 was found to be credible. He later recalled the Pope was shocked. I'm shocked, I tell you, by the news. Why is this different? Because this was a minor. You see how that makes a difference? Because one is not 18 and the others are over 18. So the ones that are over 18, apparently, it's okay. It's quite okay. As long as they're adults, it's called consensual and not illegal. That's what McCarrick said. We talked about that probably 15 minutes ago. But when they're minor, well, now we can do something. Where is the justice for all of the adult young males that were victimized in this? Therein lies the question. June 20th, 2018. The decision to pull McCarrick from public ministry is made public. Following this, more individuals' information come forward about McCarrick's misconduct, including a second minor. The Holy See starts a search to identify even more possible victims. July 28, 2018, Pope Francis accepts McCarrick's resignation from the College of Cardinals. And this is when the steam train keeps rolling. McCarrick was found guilty of solicitation during the sacrament of confession, as well as sins against the Sixth Commandment with minors and adults, with the aggravating factor of abuse of power in January of 2019. Between 2018 and 2019, besides knowledge of bed sharing and inappropriate conduct with seminarians, as well as the reports made in the Diocese of Metuchen by the priests, these investigations do not uncover prior knowledge of abuse of minors by McCarrick by any one of these entities. July 28, 2021, McCarrick is charged with sexually assaulting a teenage boy in Massachusetts in the 1970s. July 29, 2021, a civil lawsuit is filed in New Jersey court accusing him of abusing a 12-year-old. August 2021. See how it's just fast and furious now? A new lawsuit, a new lawsuit, a new lawsuit, a new lawsuit. All of a sudden, the floodgates are open. Their guy is no longer under the protection. And so now all bets are off. Until when? Until January 2023, McCarrick's lawyers claim he is in significant mental decline and may not be fit to stand trial for abuse that allegedly occurred in the 1970s. McCarrick files a motion claiming he is legally incompetent to stand trial for the 1970 sex abuse charges, citing significant worsening and irreversible dementia. McCarrick is criminally charged with fourth-degree sexual assault in Wisconsin for an incident that allegedly occurred in April of 1977, but he's let off the hook because of his dementia, and he never goes to jail. And on April the 4th, 2025, he dies at 94 years old. The thin line between mercy and justice. This timeline by Catholic News Agency gives us who knew what and when. And they knew very early on. Something was never right with Theodore McCarrick. But he was allowed to progress by all kinds of men. By Vigano, Sambi, Bertoni, Butkowski, Leveda, Whirl. All of these men, they all had a role to play. Some of them sounded the alarm, and some of them just signed off and rubber stamped his endorsement. Theodore McCarrick went all the way to the top, and he went all the way to his grave. And so far as I know, he never publicly repented of any of his crimes, even though he had apparently admitted to at least some indiscretion. Pray for his soul. Hell is real and people go there. I was going to jump into the chat box. I am so grateful to Janice. Sharon, you're amazing. My insiders, thanks for joining the team. Thanks for being on the team. You're so cool. I really don't understand so much of this. It doesn't make much sense to me. I'm just going to be honest with you. Lisa, good afternoon. I was going to say good morning. Honey B, good afternoon. Evelyn. Mari, Michelle, Lady Jane, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being on the team. Thanks to everybody. Caleb the mechanic. I'll try to catch some of the commentary. I got to run right now, but I wanted to go through this in detail because tomorrow morning I've got Mike McCormick on the team. I've got James Grine on the team. We're going to be talking about McCarrick from their perspective, trying to better understand it as this man went to his eternal reward. And I have no idea whether or not he was prepared for that. Something we said on the radio program this morning was we must pray and be perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect. And that means to pray for even your enemy. God desired for Theodore McCarrick to go to heaven. The only question is, did Theodore McCarrick desire heaven above all else? Because as our Lord tells us, where our heart is, there is our treasure. And all we can do is pray, hope. And I suppose, don't worry, as Padre Pio would say. God bless you. God love you. Thanks for hitting that thumbs up. Thanks for sharing this. If you're interested, hit the join button and become an insider. I would be very grateful to you. But until tomorrow morning on the live radio program, God love you, God bless you, and I'll see you there.